So again, no high from Illinois. 2nd and 14. You're going to see the back away. They're actually going to run stretch to the right. Again, cover 2 from Illinois, right? So you show kind of a zero look pre-snap, maybe one high even. You can do it from either. And then you rotate into a cover 2. And the trap corner is the one that ends up making the play on the ball carrier. The thing that is important to take away here for Michigan is what Purdue is showing is that they are not necessarily tipping the play by back alignment. A lot of teams are going to set the defensive front based on the position of the back because most teams like to cross the quarterback's face. This, you have an inside zone threat to the weak side or any of your counters or anything like that, but I think Purdue's mostly zone. But the deep set also allows them to do this deep drop and stretch to the right, similar to what Ohio State did against Michigan for a big game. So Michigan's going to have to be prepared to stop this kind of same side zone run. Most teams, when they do same side, they like to go to gap schemes. This is a zone, and you see that kind of almost counter step, deep drop. There's still a tip to it, though, right? Look at his depth, right? He's not sidecar right here. He's got that depth to provide him almost that pistol run angle. So there's still some tips that you can take away from it, from the running back depth, but you're going to have to be prepared to defend both sides of the center line, regardless of where the back is aligned. 3rd and 12. One thing you always have to prepare for with Purdue is the variety that they have in the screen game. Now this play should be dead for a tackle for loss. He ends up churning out a first down. But this is a design screen, right? So Purdue has a lot of different types of screens that hit at a lot of different speeds. So this is more of a quick screen, right? They're going to motion the tight end in. He's going to crack down on the linebacker. He's going to push vertical like he's running a route, but then he's actually going to block the cornerback, and they're just going to run a quick swing screen, right? It's a swing screen. It's not a traditional screen, but they run both. So you always have to be prepared for the running backs, tight ends, especially if they have a fullback in the game. It goes to him a lot. They run a large variety of screens from a lot of different looks to a lot of different places on the field. And here they just get a one-on-one matchup, and then the blocks get there. I mean, this is a nice job. This isn't great blocking, but he's just effort. I'm going to continue to block. I'm going to continue to make a play. So you have to be prepared for the screen game. Right? The pass RPO game is an extension of the run game, right? If we're not going to be great blocking the run, we have to find ways to attack the same areas of the field. So here's just a simple RPO, a lot of misdirection involved, right? So you use the jet motion, trying to get either a guy in man coverage to run them off, kind of get people to pick each other, maybe get rotation if they're in zone. Illinois has been playing, they started off with a lot of cover 2, but now they're going kind of back more to cover 1. Cover 1 helps you identify who your target is, so you see it's cover 1. And if you know how they're going to rotate the cover 1, right? If they're playing, let's say, key, for instance, cover 1 key, then if he releases this way, he's got a coverage right here. If he releases across the formation, those safeties are going to rotate. So the quarterback can identify the coverage, knows that he has an open man in the flat. I mean, he doesn't really make a lot here, but it's just a simple RPO. How do you get extension of the run game while not, forcing your offensive line to be a huge priority? Now, I'm kind of liking the run look here more than the pass. So sometimes maybe you can bait them into throwing the ball. That's not that optimal. You're actually getting some movement on the front side. They get bailed out by throwing it because the backside loses in a pretty big way here. Right here they lose it. But the front side actually gets really good initial movement there. So maybe something to look for. But they get the first down. So Michigan's going to have to expand their 4x1 checks. This is already the second play that's been 4x1 for Purdue. A lot of teams have pretty automatic checks versus 4x1, whether it's a cover 3 look, whether it's just cover 1. Cover 1's the easiest, right? Because then you're just in man coverage. but you need to expand it, because if Purdue is able by formation to just get you into a known coverage, then they're going to know where to put the ball. Right? It doesn't guarantee 100% efficiency, but letting the quarterback know pre-snap which targets he should think are open is going to help. Here, it's a vertical concept, so 4 verts, and then the 1 drive route underneath. Versus man coverage, a lot of times, right, the verticals are just going to pull away the coverage, and they're going to act as a rub route for the drive concept. Good job playing at different levels for Illinois. See how they're all playing at different levels here? And he senses this linebacker, or this is actually safety, trying to carry the vertical here. He actually gets over the top of it, doing a good job there, getting over the top of it, then driving on this under route. But going to have to be prepared for that. This is already on the first drive, the second 4x1 that I've seen from Purdue. And a lot of teams don't have a ton of checks, coverage checks, versus 4x1. So something to be prepared for. Here's another 4x1 from Purdue. Whether this is a check by Illinois, if they go from cover 1 and then check to cover 0, or they're in cover 0 the whole way. What it does, the 4x1, is it helps identify the coverage, right? Because you have this deep safety and he's forced to drop down over this tight end as he flexes out for the running back. And so it helps you identify something is up, right? If this guy's dropping down over the tight end, they have nobody deep, that signals cover 0. Instead of cover 0, he throws to his hot on the slant. It's well defended, but again, they're using empty to try to simplify the coverage. You're using 4x1, so 4 receivers to one side of the formation, 1 to the other, to try to simplify the coverage. Now, they don't have that dynamic wide receiver that they've had on years past that is going to win a lot of these one-on-one matchups. So Illinois, who's great at cover 1, they're comfortable in this position, right? They're comfortable defending this slant off inside coverage, cover 0. They defend it perfectly, get the pass breakup. You'll get a lot of rub routes to the 4, right? The problem with 4 to one side is you start working in more constricted space because you're just putting more bodies in that space. You also are limited in your protection schemes. So usually your concepts are going to be a little bit faster. So the offense can take advantage of those, or the defense, can take advantage of those things. But, sometimes if you love a matchup, you can go to the back side of it because so much effort is put to the 4 receiver side versus the 1 receiver side. All right, now let's take a look at Purdue defense. You're going to get a lot of 2-high structure at the snap. They will rotate in and out of it. Mostly 2-high coverages from what I've seen when I first reviewed this game, but a fairly decent mix. I mean, you're talking maybe 2/3 2-high structures, 1/3 1-high. So it's not like they sit in 2-high all day. Now, the other thing as this game wears on, you're going to see Illinois came out in their script and ran gap schemes, and Purdue had a lot of trouble with gap schemes. It's hard to tell on a 1-game sample size. This is why you don't just scout 1 game and have a huge takeaway. But Illinois plays this stand-up defensive end, right? Mostly even fronts. They switch in and out, mostly over fronts. But they rotate. They'll run some odd fronts. They'll go to under. They'll do stuff like that. And the stand-up end will create a lot of movement. So when he sees down blocks, I think he's thinking zone away. And because they're in 2-high, he folds back inside to try to add back numbers play side if it is zone to the left. The problem is versus gap schemes is he just takes himself out of the play. And you're going to see them fold inside and play really, it almost becomes a soft edge because they play him so heavy meaning really tight over top of the tackle or even inside the tight end a lot of times. And so the outside can be open. Especially, the pin and pull schemes. Michigan loves pin and pull schemes. This counter scheme where he goes inside. The linebacker does a good job flowing over the top. You're going to see that here. Watch the 1 middle linebacker. Watch how fast he flows over the top to the counter action. That's a good job, but they're down a man at the point of attack because that edge folded back inside, which to me looks like a response to zone. And Illinois runs some gap, they run some zone. They're much more zone heavy. So I don't know if that's Purdue preparing for all the zone and they get hit with gap, or if this is something that's going to be standard on film. So something I'll watch for tonight as Michigan attacks them. So here Purdue is in single high coverage. They're actually going to play cover 3. It turns into man coverage up there though because of the condensed bunch. All right, so it's cover 3 because you can see this guy dropping out. And then they just zone, so the distribution of the bunch sets, they just pick up in their zones. But like I said, it turns into man coverage right here. Illinois identifies that, so they just throw the go route liking the matchup. What I want you to focus on, though, so here's single high, cover 3. This is stand-up defensive end again. They're going to fold him inside. And you're going to see on that stunt, the defensive tackle plugs straight vertical. Right, so he's in the B gap. He floods into the C gap. They're trusting the linebacker, the hook curl player, to be the edge defender. But it leaves them with a soft edge. This isn't a run play. It's a pass play, right? And they just take advantage here. But that's something to look for in the run game. They move that edge player inside a lot to try to regain a free hitter at the point of attack. But it can leave them quite often, at least in this game, with a soft edge. And I think that's something that Michigan is going to want to attack. Right? How heavy he plays, how tight he plays to the tackle, lots of folding inside. Right? If you can adjust your blocks, which Michigan is good at adjusting their blocks because they rep gap scheme so much, then what you can do is get a numbers advantage at the point of attack. And that's great for the run game. So this is the other thing you saw early. So I emphasized gap scheme because I know on the script, Illinois emphasized gap scheme. So even on their play action, they're pulling guards. Now, one thing that I noticed early with Purdue, so they're mostly too high, like I said, and not too high. It looks like they've run some quarters, some cover 6, so quarter, half, and some cover 2. Pretty much everything you'd expect from a Ron English defense. It hasn't really, it's adapted for a modern game, but it's still, his core defense. But one thing that they've struggled with, it's not a lot of man coverage, and they've struggled passing off and maintaining leverage against crossing routes. So whether it's deep crossing routes or in here, this kind of wide delay, they're going to try to get the wheel and then the delayed underneath it. Right? A little throwback play. You've seen Ohio State run this play a lot. And maintaining leverage on these crossing routes. And so I expect Michigan to come out and run a lot of boot action, play action, boot action, get into their flood concepts, their crossing routes, their unders, their drives, their levels, things of that nature where it crosses the line of scrimmage. Much less vertical because there's so much zone from Purdue, much more focused on getting bodies moving horizontally and beating guys to the spot. I've seen when I reviewed the first half of this game for Illinois had a lot of success getting receivers into open positions. Whether they hit the receivers or not is a different question. But receivers getting in open positions where the quarterback should be able to win in coverage. This time Purdue shows one high right here. Now, this is going to be a pin and pull. And again, this is where I think Michigan is going to go a lot in this game. It's obvious if you just looked at this one play, right? Then you say, yeah, they should do this every time. But I just think the way that Purdue plays the edge, see how he's head up on the tight end? Really heavy, right? So really tight to it. That tight end can get that block, and Michigan generally has pretty good blocking tight ends. Then you can wrap around the horn, kick out the linebacker that steps up, because someone's got to have the edge. Right? Zone the backside to the linebacker level, wrap him around to the front side linebacker, and boom, you got an explosive probably. So the way that they play that edge so hard, it sets up for gap schemes, I think, for Michigan. Counter OH, they haven't run it much this year, but they have run it, especially against Nebraska. Counter OT maybe a little bit. Maybe with a little bit of bash, but then I think a lot similar to what Michigan did against Penn State. I expect that to be a lot of looks, a lot of pin and pull on the edge. So I know Purdue has gap schemes in their playbook. Brom's a firm believer in more is more. So, while they're very zone dominant, they switch it up. But it's funny that in this game, I think the 2 times they pulled the guard, both have been on pass. So here's a power pass. Not quite as popular as it was a few years ago, but still a pretty popular scheme. So you pull a guard, right? You hard play action, downhill play action, get the linebackers to suck up. Depending on the coverage, the linebacker's either going to pop, or the tight end, is either going to pop kind of right down the hash, down the center, or he's going to cross the formation to the far side. So here you see the linebacker step up right there. Boom, he's beat, he's toast. Boom, just a nice little hard play action power pass. Then he's going to jump over some people. Probably go down, but he's going to keep on running, keep on churning, be physical, be a tight end, right? But power pass. So they like to pull guards on the play action, really get those linebackers sucking up. Something Michigan's going to have to be careful of. Michigan does tend to play a little bit more back, right? They protect against the RPO. They don't fire quite as hard as they used to in years past. It's helped them a little bit in coverage. But if Purdue's going to come out and run stuff like this, power pass, they're going to have to be really patient on that backside. Confirm that it is a run, because the run game is going to be much less explosive than the pass game. Not that the pass game itself is explosive. This isn't a huge gain, but it's a lot harder for Purdue to pick up chunks, 10, 15-yard chunks on the ground than it is for them to do it in the air. So Illinois did go to more cover 2 in this game than they usually do. Cover 2 is their second favorite concept. So it's not, certainly it's in the playbook quite a bit. But, majority cover 1. They've been about 50-50 in this game. They really started out more cover 2 before going back to cover 1. And here's a cover 2 call again. I thought Purdue in this game had trouble against their cover 2. More trouble against their cover 2 than cover 1. Whether that's because they prepped for man coverage and then ended up getting a lot of zone or what. But here you can see how it helps Illinois set the edge, right, with the cornerbacks attacking. And Purdue's acting like they're just going to take this all the way to the sideline, really wide angle from the running back. And you're going to see they get some movement here. That left tackle does get a little bit of movement there. But it's just you're really going to have to defend sideline to sideline on the run, right? It's going to be much less interior runs, more we're really going to try to stretch the field, just find one good block and cut off of that. Here it's just keeping you honest, right? It's 3 yards. It's not a huge gain, but it's attacking the edge, keeping you honest on the ground.